Thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me, see me, so should be okay. First of all, vielen Dank für die Einladung. Very pleased to be here. I'll do this in English because it's the international event of DAAD. And so I start with thanking the DAAD for inviting me to this event. I am a little bit sad I cannot be over there. And now that you kind of moderated into that room, I am even sadder, but let's be positive on this wintry Friday, and let's hope that I can make a virtual contribution to this discussion. But I'm delighted to be here with you today, and I'm very happy that you have decided to put the Digital Education Action Plan at the core of this theme track that you just introduced. And I see that in the description and the references that you have made, you also refer to it, but also you refer to the Digital Education Hub. I have to say I'm not entirely surprised to see those references, as we have been cooperating with DAAD for almost a year now on the implementation of the Digital Education Hub. And moreover, I am not entirely surprised to see that beyond this thematic track, the focus of the event, which let's say has been accompanying us for these days, is digital education, since I think we all agree on the importance of it, and in particular in higher education, of course. Now, I will start to move some slides here, so I hope that will be fine. And I will go to the second slide. So I just want to start by maybe stating an obvious fact that we are living in very exciting times. And if you go back to the etymology of the word exciting, you will see that it really has this, on the one side, very positive connotations, but it has also sometimes a little bit of a terrifying feeling to it. It goes back to Latin, and then in the Middle Ages, where also it used to describe things like this. And I think it is very exciting times because on the one hand, it is very, very challenging and quite dramatically so right now, I believe. But on the other hand, it is also very interesting and promising in the ways digitalization is, in fact, I think we can just say it like this, shaking the foundations of a lot of established structures, and you can even say the establishment. And we often talk about the need to keep abreast with the development of technology, as if technologies were developing on their own, and if they were sort of an organic element or an organism. And this is quite a misunderstanding, because we actually completely forget that all these changes that we see in technology are dictated by our own needs. And what is actually changing is, in fact, not the technical aspects, which are just a reflection, maybe an evolution, but a human one. And what changes is, in fact, the practice that we have, the way in which we allow technology to enter our home, our classroom, to change our behavior. And so it is important to keep in mind that it's all about the human agency. And I hope you will excuse this kind of philosophical introduction. But at EU level, we subscribe very strongly to the principle of a people-centered digital transformation, not one dictated by the market only, nor one dictated by the state only. And we have seen with the pandemic that there basically has been a very urgent need, which has led to a big jump in the use of technology in education. And of course, we know that the responses have been quite different among institutions and countries and people. We have also seen not great impacts in terms of the inequality that has become more obvious. But we do observe two main forces, in a way, pulling in opposite directions. On the one side, the push and drive for a digital transformation, which sort of leads to a progress. And on the other side, we observe a lot of inertia of the status quo, and indeed of going back to a default position, which is absolutely unsurprising in terms of how transformation happens. So if anything, this is totally predictable. And there is no doubt that the success of any digital transition depends directly on how we deal with the question of education. For us, education has always been an instrument to promote equal opportunity, and it must remain so in the digital era. And through education, we have the opportunity also to ensure that no one gets left behind in these two big transitions that we are talking about, the digital and the green transition. And it is true that it is not only a key to economic success, but also to achieving fairness. So people-centered education and people-centered digital transformation. Now, we are glad to contribute from our part to this very grand agenda, of course, very big objectives, with our work on the Digital Education Action Plan. And as you might have heard sometimes, this is our vision for digital education in Europe, focusing on high quality, inclusiveness, as well as accessibility for all. And it is these three elements that are interdependent and that need to be there in equal terms in order to bring this kind of vision to life. This was adopted some 2 years ago, and it was a very integral part of the overall vision of the Commission on digital transformation. This is why you see all these logos here, because basically it reflects to different major policies which all reflect to some extent the digitalization agenda, let's put it like this. And what was important for me is just to pass the message that when we speak about digital education, we do this while having in mind its relationship to all these different important policy, and that it is not done in isolation. So the action plan focuses on two very clear long-term priorities. On the one side, the need to foster the development of a high-performing digital education ecosystem, and on the other hand, the need to further enhance digital skills and competences for the digital transformation. And we address all training and education sectors. And of course, here universities and higher education have a very important role to play. Since the adoption of this action plan, we started working on the implementation, and I will say a few words on it in the next slides. But I want to mention also some political facts, because we operate also in a political environment in the European Commission. And I would like to mention that very soon after the adoption of the action plan back in September, we had the Council conclusions on digital education in Europe's knowledge societies, as the full name goes. And I'm mentioning this for two reasons. The first is because it was adopted under the German presidency back end of 2020, when the Germans took the presidency, and they decided actually to focus on this topic in the Education Council. And the other reason I'm mentioning it is because there are some very interesting references there where the Council welcomed the action plan and in fact asked for a co-creative process between the Commission and the Member States when it comes to the implementation of the action plan. And co-creation is not necessarily a very common word, let's say, in political declarations. So I think that there is a little bit of evolution there in the thinking. And this evolution is absolutely essential, because in education, we totally depend on what the member states agree to do together. And we have something which you have also in Germany, which is basically, you have the Länder who are responsible for education. At the EU level, we have the member states, and if you speak to Germany, then it's even more complicated because there is also a ministry in between, the federal ministry. So it really comes down to what member states want to do, and because the treaty says so, very similar to the way that, let's say, also the German constitution says it, it's about subsidiarity. So my main point here is to say that when member states want to cooperate, then they do. But when they don't, of course, this is very difficult to change. So what we observe in the Resilience and Recovery Facility, which is this abbreviation, which is the big funding program the Commission set up after the COVID pandemic broke, we see that member states are massively investing in digital education. What is, first of all, interesting is that education is a very big part of the spending overall, and it is 10% of the total spending of the Resilience and Recovery Facility. I mean, I would just say that if you look at GDP expenditure at any given member state and you look at what goes for education, then normally it's not that much. So it already says something that 10% of the overall spend goes to education. And then what is even more interesting is that 30% of that goes to digital education. So there is some big trends going on which are observable, and many member states decided to upgrade equipment, let's say infrastructure, to overhaul teacher training. On the higher education side, we have seen modernization of study programs, STEM and STEAM specializations being funded, and of course, very importantly also for the context today, the whole internationalization agenda. And we believe that this is also the right way to become more stronger, more independent in the EU, but it's also very clear that the type of challenges that there are require a sort of a gear shift, if you like, and a more transformational joint effort at EU, as well as national, but also regional level where relevant. And in order to do this, 1 year ago, the president of the Commission launched what we call a structured dialogue on digital education. This is a very interesting initiative because it is a new way of working together between the Commission and the member states. And with the dialogue, our objective is to increase the ambition and the commitment to advance digital education and skills at the European level. And this dialogue was implemented through a series of bilateral discussions between the Commission and each and every member states. We just closed the final one last week. So we have held 27 deep dives, full-day deep dives with each and every member states individually. And in those deep dives, the Commission and the member states from different policy sectors, such as education, labor market, infrastructure, finance, sometimes others, come together to reflect on how to make investment, for example, as impactful as possible, and how to deliver better on this kind of strategies. And this is because we understand very well that digital education is not something that can be done on an isolated manner by the Ministry of Education only, but they are rather an issue or a challenge for the society at large, and also for the public and the private sector, but also for different authorities. And so together we are looking at how to commonly address these type of challenges, but also to learn from each other, because some member states have great experiences and can share this further. With this process, we will most likely in the next quarter, so in 2023, we will put forward 2 soft law instruments, which are in our jargon called Council recommendations. And on the one side, this is a Council recommendation on the key enabling factors of digital education. This reflects our first priority of the action plan, but here we will address the need to tackle the type of enablers that you need for inclusive, accessible, and high-quality digital education. Some may consider them to be very basic or not that interesting. I mean, things like connectivity, equipment, devices, but also the way teachers are taught and have their continuous development. The reality is that without this type of preconditions or key enablers, no meaningful digital education provision is possible. And we want to help with a coordinated manner to basically ask the member states to commit even more and to work tirelessly to ensure this type of provision with the ultimate objective to have universal digital education access for everyone, independently from their socioeconomic status, from the rural or urban, let's say, background, or any other divide for that matter. So this is the first Council recommendation, and we will address there also some of the lessons that we have seen from COVID, obviously, because there it became very, very clear that not everything is, let's say, as maybe advanced or resilient in terms of infrastructure. And we will also invite member states to work to ensure sort of minimum conditions. The second Council recommendation that we are also going to put forward, so this is kind of a twin package, and in fact it's the other side of the coin, as I would qualify it, is the need to improve the provision of digital skills. What you will see here is the status as well as the targets that we have in terms of digital skills, be it for the let's say 8th graders, which is the first, the so-called share of low achievers of 8th graders, or the digital skills of adults, or the ICT specialists. What is common to all these three is that we are very far away from achieving the targets, and it is very important to say so, because unless there is a different way of working towards achieving them, any projections and meaningful calculation into the future based on growth rates of the past, and it's not even proper to say growth rate, rather development rate, because in some cases we don't see growth in this status quo. Unless there is a change in the way of doing things, it is very possible that the targets will be missed. So what we are putting forward there is also some let's say, measures on how the provision of digital skills can be perhaps improved. And we see here just some examples for you to be aware of. We see a very strong role for what informatics or computer science or computational thinking can do in different levels of education, school, but also VET. We also see the need for further development of higher education courses in cutting-edge technologies, just to name a couple of examples. Now, higher education is very important, and this is why we have put forward this European strategy for universities, skills for digital transition. There is something wrong here with the slide, so a part of the word is not there. But with this strategy, which we adopted earlier this year, we aim to support the digital transformation of higher education, to foster the development of innovative pedagogies and digital skills, including on emerging technologies such as AI, high-performance computing, cloud computing, or robotics. And what is important is that this strategy addresses also the necessity for European interconnected, interoperable digital infrastructures, which are really the foundation for a more advanced and more effective transnational cooperation. And a big step to laying down the foundation of this was, of course, the European universities idea, which was sort of floated 5 years ago. And as of today, of course, we have more than 340 higher education institutions, which are spread over 31 countries. And this project is, as you know, one of the flagships of the EU. We also know that the universities face a lot of specific challenges of both pedagogic and operational nature. And in order to address some of those, as I said, we contribute from the angle of the Digital Education Action Plan. And what we will do next, rather soon, is we will take the initiative to launch a community of practice of higher education practitioners in the digital field to lay what we hope may become a European higher education interoperability framework. And this is a very important topic which merits its own separate track. So suffice it to say here that we have a lot of expectations and ambition there. And we are also quite pleased that this community of practice could be hosted within the recently launched Digital Education Hub. And it is with the Digital Education Hub that I would like to conclude my contribution to your event today. I want to say just a few words on this initiative. The Hub is a space which hosts a community of people who work on digital education. So it's a place to work, to implement, less, for grand strategizing and policy high-level abstractions. It's on purpose so, and it was launched in June 2022, so rather recently, of course, with a lot of preparatory work, and it counts already today more than 1,500 members, growing by the day in terms of people, activities, interactions, and connections. And we strongly believe that its added value lays in this very practical approach, in this implementation-oriented approach, but also in the cross-sectoral nature, because it brings together from experts from different fields, school, higher education, vet, and so on. And we are pleased also to have DAAD supporting the Commission in the implementation of this project by leading the consortium of 11 partners. And you would see that there is a wealth of activities which are organized and available on the Hub. One of the most interesting aspects that I could highlight is the work of the squads, which are thematic working groups on specific aspects, such as interoperability, for example. So there is a lot of synergies there which are going on, and I would like to invite you, if not yet done so, to join the Hub and be part of these discussions. It's early days, so a lot can be shaped and done better. And it is with these words that I would like to close by basically pointing out to a core principle of the Hub, which is, and also of the action plan, I have to say, which is really about guiding our work, and this is cooperation. I thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this event today, and hope that this presentation is a small contribution to future cooperations and exchanges to come. Vielen Dank.